Okay, good afternoon everyone. I've given it the obligatory Irish 5 minutes for people to arrive. We still may have some come in, but we will get this show on the road. Thank you for coming along today on the info session on the third level graduate scheme. By a show of hands, how many people here are undergraduates? Just a few. And graduate students? The majority. Anyone here currently on the scheme? Yes, a couple of people. Okay, so today what we're going to do is kind of look at what the program is, how it's evolved, how to apply for it, so the practicalities of what you need to know. And then my colleague Shri, who works with me in the international office and who is currently in the second year of the third level graduate scheme, is going to talk about his experience on the scheme, how he found it and how he found moving on to that second year, which is probably going to apply to a lot of you here. So I see some familiar faces. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Colum. I'm the International Student Advisor here at UCD. So I'm based in UCD International. Once upon a time I worked in the immigration office, though not on the front desk. I was in the family reunification unit. That's a decade ago at this point now, but I do have experience of immigration matters and the way in which maybe the department thinks a little bit anyway. So the third level graduate scheme, the stamp 1G, so what is it? So it's a stay back option, right, that the department has introduced. And it is available to anyone who graduates on what's called level 8, level 9 or level 10 on the National Framework for Qualifications. And you can see that there. So that's degrees, masters and PhDs. That's from a larger piece if you're not familiar with the National Framework for Qualifications. And under the scheme, anyone who graduates with an undergraduate degree from UCD or the other universities can get the third level graduate program for 12 months, and for postgraduate students, which we now know most of you are, it's up to 24 months, but that is subject to renewal after 12 months. So I'll talk a little bit about that renewal process as well. So the evolution. This program was first introduced in 2007, which was the year that the iPhone first came out, and Ratatouille had just come out that year as well. When it was first introduced, I remember you got 6 months, and you didn't get stamp 1G, you got stamp 2. So it was impossible to tell who was a student and who was a graduate. And we would have employers constantly contacting us, trying to see if we could tell them if a student was a graduate or if they were a current student. So we have come a long way since then. Then it was amended initially in 2011, which is when we got the first proper student immigration guidelines in Ireland. So our proper immigration guidelines around students are not even a decade old. We're a country that was really, really good at exporting people, and it's only new to importing people. So we're still learning about it. It's still a work in process. It's not perfect. As frustrating as you may find it, it's come a long way, and I'm going to talk about that. And then last year was when it was changed to the 2-year stay-back option for postgraduate students. So that was one of the big changes, and that relates to this here. So for anyone who's on the scheme, what are your entitlements? Well, the main one is that you can work full-time. You can work 40 hours a week. And for that first year in particular, there are no limitations on what you work, on the category that you work in, or on your salary level. So it doesn't matter what you're being paid, okay, for that first year. And then when your permission under the scheme, under the stamp 1G is coming to an end, then you have a number of different options. You can re-enter the education system at a higher level. So for the undergraduates, that would mean going on to do a master's. For master's students, that would mean going on to do a PhD. PhDs are going to have to look at doing postdocs and probably getting onto a hosting agreement at that point. Or the other option, obviously, is work permits. So, how do you qualify? What are the things that you need? And we get this quite a bit. So you have to be notified in writing that you have received your award. This is the wording that's used in the document. So the big part of this, I suppose, is that you don't actually your graduation ceremony doesn't have to have taken place. Okay, you have to have gotten your results. Okay, you have to gotten to a point where there's no possibility that you may have to go back and repeat an exam or a module or make corrections to your PhD thesis if that's what you're writing. So we get sometimes with PhD students. Are there anyone doing a PhD here today? Well, one of the things with PhD students is sometimes in relation to, there can be that period where you're waiting for your viva, and then after your viva you may have to do corrections. So it's when you've been notified that you have achieved the award. So whether that be a degree, whether that be your master's, or whether that be your PhD. You do not have to have gone through your graduation ceremony. You do not have to have been given your actual parchment. Okay? So that's important to know, because sometimes you might get your results and there might be months and months before your actual graduation ceremony takes place. The other important thing is that you need to hold a stamp 2. Okay, so that's really, really important, because sometimes people can leave the country and they go out and their stamp 2 expires, and when they come back into the country, if they're not visa required, they get a stamp at the airport and they get a tourist stamp, and that makes it nigh on impossible to move on to the third level graduate scheme. So it's really, really important that you ensure that your stamp 2 is up to date. Now, there has been progress on that, and it will continue. Some of you, hopefully, if you're master's students, were given 15 months when you registered last year. I know some people were given 12, I know some people were given 13, but hopefully some people were given the 15 months, and that will continue. That was just introduced last year, and it was something that Innes are keen to continue with. So this year, hopefully everyone, when they register, will get that 15 months at their initial registration for masters, because most master's students don't get their results until October, sometimes November, and sometimes it can stretch out a little bit. But holding stamp 2, that is key, okay? So you have to ensure that you're on stamp 2. We've also seen some instances where companies have looked to get graduates to move on to the internship stamp. That's not going to work either. You're not going to get the third level graduate scheme from the internship stamp. So you need to ensure that you're on stamp 2 if you want to move on to the third level graduate scheme. Okay? The other thing is that you need to be under the 7-year limit. 7 and 8 year limits are kind of interchangeable, but you can't have been studying for 7 years and then move on to the scheme. Okay, I don't think probably most of you should be okay on that. And then so anyone who's the undergraduates who are out there, you can get the 1 year of the scheme, you can go back into education, you can do a master's, and then you can get another year. Okay, so that's important for you to know. But you can't access the scheme on more than 2 occasions. You'd find it nearly impossible to do that in time limits anyway, but it's not something that you can do. Okay, so the thing about you have your results, you've made your appointment to go and to the Burkey office. So what do you need to bring with you? Well, it's very similar to what you would have brought to your initial registration, or to renewals for any of you who are undergrads or who've gone to the office more than once. So, statement of final results, valid passport, the email. The other thing is you're going to need insurance, and that's something I'll talk a little bit more about, because it's a question that comes up. So you're going to need insurance to show to the immigration officers. So one of the things is that a lot of people are probably on the O'Driscoll O'Neill insurance. O'Driscoll O'Neill has now changed its name to Study and Protect. Study and Protect provide graduate health insurance for €150 for the year. Okay, you need to contact them directly, but they provide graduate health insurance for the year. Obviously, it's your choice as to what health insurance policy you want. Some people are going to want, if you're really looking to put down roots in Ireland, it may make sense for you to have VHI, Irish Life, or Leah. Those are obviously all acceptable, but Study and Protect is an option for you should you want just a policy that covers you and that meets your immigration requirements. Okay, so for those of you who are on the scheme and who are looking to renew for a further 12 months, this is where it gets a little bit trickier, okay? Because you can see that you have to satisfy the immigration office that efforts have been made to access the graduate level employment, okay? Actively seeking is the key term here, and Sri will talk a little bit more about this, because you can be in a job, but the thing, you still have to show that you're actively seeking work that will lead to an employment permit. If you go to the immigration office and you're just in the job, then you might meet an immigration officer who says, well, why isn't that job offering you an employment permit? So you're going to have to show that you are actively searching, that you're moving towards an employment permit. So that can be things like signing up to employment agencies, signing up to websites, Monster, various other job sites, to show that you are looking for it. You can remain in your job, but you have to show that you're moving towards an employment permit. If you've been to immigration, you'll know that it varies. It really varies dependent upon which immigration officer you meet on any particular day and what mood that immigration officer is in on that day. Yeah? Everyone's had that experience? Yes?
What constitutes a graduate level employment job?
In the policy, and what I'll do is at the end I'll send out, everyone who registered will get 2 documents. You'll get a 2-pager from me, and you'll also get the actual policy. And what they say in the policy, they don't define it, which is something that we see very often with immigration at times. And the people, it's tough. I have real sympathy there's some great people on the ground in Burkey who are doing their best, and we'll talk a little bit more about numbers in a while, but they say that the immigration authorities, while not strictly applying the lists or thresholds themselves, will have regard to the highly skilled occupations list, the ineligible occupations list, an employment permit, and critical skills employment permit. So that's what they're going to look at. Okay, they're going to look at, does it relate to your field of study as such, or is it very general? So things like general admin, they don't tend to like that. It tends to be skilled work that they're looking for. So it's difficult for me to say exactly, but that's what they pay attention to. But the actively seeking is the important part, okay? And Sri will talk about his experience. It can be actively working towards higher education, all right? So Sri will talk about it, but it can be working towards moving on to a PhD program. Yes?
But will there be any issue if you do not plan to change the job? You just need to show that you plan to?
If you have, it will depend, I suppose. A lot will. It's difficult to say. It's always going to be judged on a case-by-case basis. But you need to be able to answer the question, well, why isn't your employer giving you a work permit now? And if there's an answer to that, if maybe you've just started with your employer, you're only there a couple of months, but your employer are going to give you a letter that will say, if this person, demonstrates ability, then we might be in a position to offer an employment permit. that would be proof for them. It's about demonstrating that you're moving forward. But it's all going to be on a case-by-case basis. I wish it was clearer. I wish it was more black and white. It's not. But it's about demonstrating to them that you're looking to progress. With immigration, it's a bit like in terms of academics, they're always looking for progression. They worry about when you're not progressing. So if they see you just not making the effort, that's when they're going to ask an awful lot of questions. Yeah?
Because just in my situation, I was actually starting with the graduate program, and this is just where policy they did not provide work permission for graduate program, but a 2-year one. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna, what I've done is, so hopefully today's session will run for about an hour. I have the room booked for another hour afterwards. I'm gonna stay around, so if anyone has specific questions, individual cases, I'm happy to meet afterwards. But really the important thing I think to get across to the group is that it's about actively seeking. It's about reassuring the immigration officer that you meet that you are moving towards the graduate level employment. Okay, that's really what it comes down to in terms of renewing, and Sri will be able to talk to his experience. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I'm sure you've all had to use the online appointment system at some point, okay? And having worked in the area for more than a decade, and my colleague Colin, who's here, can probably talk to this as well. It used to be a case where people had to queue up overnight to get an appointment at Burkey, and that was not a nice experience for students. Okay, we had students who were harassed, we had students who were threatened, we had students who had things stolen from them. So the online appointment system is progress, the queues are gone. That photo, the one beside it where there's no queue, I actually took that myself. I went down the day that the new scheme had come in. I was full of hope that this was going to be the end of queues. It has pushed the queue online, but I'll talk a little bit about why that is. So when you book, ideally this is what you'd see. You'd see lots of appointments and you'd get your confirmation. Instead, I presume lots of you have seen this, yes? This is the spinning wheel of death on your Apple Mac. This is stubbing your toe in the dark. It is super, super frustrating, right? You see this again and again. All I can say to you, if you see these, okay, screenshot every attempt you make, okay? You're not alone in finding this, and the more evidence we can show to Burkey that, people are trying, they're constantly going on, and this is what they're facing, the better case they have to get more resources, because one of the issues they're facing is resources as well, okay? And if we can demonstrate to them that people are going on time and time again and facing this issue, then hopefully they'll be given adequate resources to solve it. And you can see there, somebody wasn't too pleased about it and decided to take their frustrations out, but that's really not going to solve anything. So I want to talk about why is the system, why is it so hard to get an appointment, okay? And that number there, the 128,000, that is the number of people in Ireland with an immigration requirement, okay? 80% of those people have to go to Burkey to register. Okay, so you're talking about 100,000 people going to Burkey to register. But that number at the end, the 320, that's the number of appointments Burkey, when they're operating at maximum capacity, that's the number of people they can see in a day, at maximum capacity. So that is why it's so difficult to get an appointment. The people on the ground there, they're as frustrated with it as many of us. They understand it, but it's a policy change that needs to happen, and we are working towards things like that. There are constantly talks going on. I'll talk a little bit about that. 23,127, that is the number of students with an immigration requirement in universities, and 4898, that's the number of international students with an immigration requirement here in UCD. That's who I sent out emails to. Some of you should have received an email from me last week reminding you to start looking to book appointments or to start thinking about it. So you get a sense then of the numbers, and that many people are going to one building, one office down in Burkey. So we need policy change. It's going to take time, but hopefully by understanding where they're coming from and why it's happening, it might take the edge off the frustration. I get it, and we will continue to lobby, we will continue to work on your behalf to try to change the system, but for right now, it's definitely going to be a struggle to get appointments for this coming semester. So there are a number of things you can do. Maybe you know about these already. Some of you have probably heard about these or received emails from me. If you have an Android phone or an iPhone, there are apps you can use. There is the GNIB bot page on Facebook. Again, you can email me and I will let you know about all of these. But these are things that can help. You still have to go online, but what they do is they notify you when appointments are made available. Okay, so they mean that you have to spend less time. And the appointments are made available generally at 10 or 2:30, okay? So you want to get online around that time. Try and get online maybe 5 minutes beforehand, have your information ready to go, and then try. But if you haven't got an appointment by 10 past 10 or by 2:40, walk away. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself crazy hitting F5 to refresh constantly, okay? Walk away. Go back the next day. There's just no point. They're not going to continually release them. If cancellations come about, these are apps that can help because you get a notification to your phone. Now, you're all going to get notifications to your phone, so everyone's going to try and book that cancellation. So you're going to end up with the spinning wheel of death screen. But, you know, eventually you will, and it is something we're working on. So that's what I want to talk to. You can see the figures there. You can see the jump, right? In 1 year, you know, we jumped 600 people, and that's going to jump again this year, okay? So numbers are only going up. That 128,000 people, that's only going up at the moment. And Brexit is going to push that number up higher. So what's happening? Well, Shashank from Indian Youth Ireland is here, and he's been doing a lot of work, and I've been working with him. He met with Senator Neil Redmond. Today, he met with the Minister Richard Bruton a couple of days ago. He has been making the government aware of what's going on, about the delays, about the difficulty in getting appointments. So we are raising it. I met recently with the Ireland India Business Association. They are lobbying, they are helping to make government aware of it. The IUA, we had Sinead Lucy in here during Global Week just a few weeks ago, and the IUA are doing a lot of lobbying as well, and they will be working with IBEC and with the different government departments, because there are different departments involved in this. You have justice, you have education, and you have business and enterprise. So they are doing a lot of lobbying, they're doing a lot of education work, and they're going to be doing a big education piece. And in September, there's going to be a big event where they're going to invite IBEC, various companies, and different heads of department in. So there are things taking place. We're also a member of ICOS, which is the representative body for international students in Ireland, and ICOS again are lobbying. So there's and there are different kind of what are called high-level groups, subgroups within the policy frameworks, and ICOS sits on those, so we lobby through ICOS. The IUA sit on another subgroup, we lobby through the IUA on so it's constantly being done, and we are looking, and hopefully we will see changes. It's not going to happen overnight. It is a slow process, but it will. We have seen change. When as I said, 2007, 6 months and stamp 2. By the time employers had figured out that you were eligible for employment for full time, your 6 months were up and you had no recourse to anything. That changed in 2011, and it changed again in 2017. So we have seen changes. The online appointment system is progress. The fact that there are now 2 options for re-entry visas, that you can use the registered mail system. So we will keep lobbying. I will keep lobbying for multi-year permissions, all of that sort of stuff, but it's going to take time. And then what we'll do, so Shree's going to come up and talk about his experience, and then after that we'll open up the floor to questions, and then after that we'll finish, and then I'll take personal questions or individual cases, okay? So I'll let Shree talk to his experience.
Thanks a lot, Colum. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shree Butts. people in the international office know me as Shri. I came to UCD in 2015 to study wildlife conservation and management. I graduated in February 2016. That's why I'm eligible for this scheme. Otherwise, I was not for like the 2-year scheme. My experience with the whole Berkeley office has been a roller coaster ride. I have been in that queue at 4 a.m. in the morning. Trust me, it's not the best. It was a really bad situation. Like, you come to Dublin first thing, and then you have to register yourself, get your GNIB card stamped too, and you are standing there at 4 a.m. in the morning. Wasn't the best experience. But then eventually it grew really well. The online system came in in 2016, and it's been a really great experience after that. So the first year of the third level graduate scheme, so you're entitled to get that 1 year of work permit visa, and that you're looking for jobs. So if you're applying for the first year, you just have to take your results, go to the Berkeley office. You won't have any problem, no questions asked. They'll give you your first 1G for the first year. For the second year, now this is where it becomes really tricky, because for the second year you have to show them a lot of documents. They literally verify each and every document. If you are, like, for example, in my case, so at the moment I'm working with the international office, and also I am a research assistant to one of the professors. I'm working with Angolan giraffe in Africa, in Namibia, and Phoenix Park fallow deers. So I'm looking forward to a PhD, probably starting this September or probably in January. So I have a reason to actually extend my visa for another year. So what I did was, during that time, I had a lot of conversation with Colum. Colum was new at that time, and I literally met him really often. I troubled him a lot. You need to show or proof. That is really important. They really verify each and every document. And probably I might have been the first to get the second in UCD, maybe not sure. But Colum, I was first for Columns. So yes. I had a letter from my professor stating that I am going to be doing a PhD, a possible PhD in September or January. It was an official letter, so they permitted me. But then I have heard some cases where, like, students have gone to Berkeley office and they just went directly, just taken some letters, and they were rejected for their second year. They say that they need more proof. So please don't do that mistake. If you are looking into any kind of jobs, it could be just like interview letters, anything. It has to be really active. If you're applying for nearly 20 jobs a month, you might get like interview calls for at least 5 of them. Take those interview letters. Those are really important. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for something that you're actively looking at. If you have something like a research or a PhD, so take a letter from the university, from your professor, officially signed and stamped. That would get you a second year visa extension. And for me it was really easy, but I've heard some really bad cases where, like, they have been rejected, they had to go back home, and I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone. So if anyone says anything, please don't believe in that. Just make sure you have all the documentations in place. Back to you, Colum. That was my experience. Thanks.
Questions. Okay, so Shri said I moved across to UCD from a small boutique college in centre of town called Trinity. So some of you in January, but I was working a similar role. That's the main information I want to get across. But questions anyone has? Yes.
And we have the residence permit, the GNIB until 31st of October, most of us,
Mhm.
generally. So the results are going to be announced
Mhm.
26th of October.
Mhm.
That gives us 4 days.
Okay, there's a couple of things. If you're if you're a master's student and currently you have permission only until maybe the end of September or the end of October, there are a number of different things you can do. You can go to the Burkey office over the summer, and they will give you an extension without charge. They'll give you an extension until December. The end of December, okay? You take your certificate of attendance that shows you're a master's student, and they will give you that extension until December. They only introduced that 15-month policy last September, and unfortunately a lot of people on the desks were not aware of it, so they only gave students until the end of September or the end of October. So they're going to give that 15 months. You'll have to make an appointment for that, but they're cancellations. That's the best option. The other option would be if you to get an appointment right when your results come out. If you can get an appointment on the 26th, that's going to be really difficult. Yes.
May I ask what he mentioned? Like you said that we can apply for extension, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do we have to pay the 300 euro thing?
No. I said if you were a master's student and you only got 12 or 13 months, then you can get the additional months. They'll put a stamp on your passport. They won't charge you for that, or they haven't been charging students for that. Everything in Irish immigration law is at the discretion of an immigration officer, but you don't have to pay for the extension. They charge you when you change your stamp. Okay, so you can extend it. There is no charge for the 300. Hang on, guys, one at a time.
Just to continue with this, I mailed the work key
Mhm.
in this particular query. They asked me that you need a certificate from your program's office saying that your graduation would be in December, and you need a medical insurance. My question was the medical insurance that I checked the insurances on study and the S&P. Protect, sorry. So all of that information they have specifically mentioned that it is okay for stamp 2 visa. So I just wanted, even my GNIP expires on 31st of October. So I want to extend it till December. So just wanted to confirm the insurances of I think 130 and 180. Are they enough for stamp 1G, or do I have to go to the second?
No, if you're renewing, you're renewing initially till December, and then moving on. That period will cover you. That'll only take you till October the following year. So your current medical insurance expires in August, so you need to get it. So it's only going to take you until August. You're not going to move on to the 1G stamp until October at the earliest. So in August of 2019, you're going to have to get medical insurance again, and at that point you'd have to get the graduate insurance from Study and Protect. But if you renew in August this year, that will cover you for until August 2019. Okay? Yes. Yeah.
Just a quick question regarding eligibility. If you were granted 12 months for a master's program, what do you need to bring to your equipment to get the extra few months to stay? Just because I just need to wait till October to get my results, we just need one more month.
So you need to bring your certificate of attendance to bring it until December. Bring your certificate of attendance that shows you're a master's student.
So would that be the same document I brought in to get the first visa?
Yeah, exactly. As long as it shows that they have a better understanding of it now, and so it comes down to that you need to be a master's student. Okay, so once you have that and you have your insurance, you've already demonstrated proof of finances, so you shouldn't require that again.
So would I need to bring proof of insurance?
You have to bring proof of insurance as well, yes. Insurance and the certificate of attendance, that's going to be the big piece there. Yes?
So actually I enrolled for my
You would have to take, along with those, you would have to take a letter from the school or department saying that you were no longer a master's student and that you were instead accepting a higher diploma. So you'd need the two in conjunction with each other. Yeah, but as long as it's level 9, then you can move on to it, yes. But you need for the school to say that you were taking the higher diploma and not the master's, because you had originally registered for the master's. Then here and then at the back.
I actually have a question about the dates, because some of the students received a letter from Dollar International Student Advisor there that if we get a job in September, we need to apply for one GED in early October.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, my GED is until November,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this experience with GED before. They said you need to come 2 weeks before your GED expires. So
I don't foresee, because you're changing stamp, that should not be a problem on this occasion. You're not simply renewing, you're changing stamp. Yes?
I'm graduating level 8 now, so if I get a permit for 1 year.
Guys, hang on, we got a question here.
So after finishing level 8 now, and I can get a permit for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean after working for 1 year, then I can go to study master's level 9,
Yes.
and after that I'll get another 2 years?
No, just 1 year after that. Just 1 year after your master's, yeah. All right?
But is that a need to take a statement of final results? What kind of document is it? Like official document from the university?
Yeah, you print it in the same way you print out a certificate of attendance. When you get your final results, there's you can go on to the same system and print out a statement of final results. Yeah. Yes.
We from Trinity and we got our results last week, and most of us didn't satisfy the requirements. And we have an exam coming up in December. That is one exam in December and one in May. But